By now, those of you that pay attention to city government have no doubt seen the headlines. Mamdani presses New York City Council to drain city's rainy day funds, setting up budget fight with Speaker Menon. As someone that is in that New York City Council, I can promise you that is not a good idea from my perspective. Let me see how I remove this here. Boom. Okay. So I want to explain something in plain English. A rainy day fund is not there for the day you feel like buying a boat. It's there for a storm. And what the mayor is proposing right now, this is in today's paper, what the mayor is proposing right now is to raid New York City's rainy day fund, not because we got hit by a hurricane, not because Wall Street collapsed, not because, look at this, boom, but because basic revenues suddenly fell off a cliff. Not because basic revenues suddenly fell off a cliff like we had in the 2008 financial crisis, but because City Hall doesn't want to make the tough choices to control spending. This is a terrible idea, absolutely terrible. The city's proposing to pull $980 million from the rainy day fund, even though this fund was not tapped during COVID, not tapped during the migrant crisis. That should tell you something. If those weren't rainy days, then this sure isn't one either. What's really going on here? We have a spending problem. The budget has grown to $127 billion. And instead of seriously shrinking bureaucracy, reining in waste, and making government live within its means, the answer from City Hall is let's crack open the emergency piggy bank. That is absurd. It's fiscal mismanagement at its worst. This is what a college student does the week before payday. And here's why policy wonks should hate this too. Once you start using one-time reserves to pay for recurring expenses, you're not solving anything. You're hiding the problem. The Council Finance Division's own slides, which I've reviewed as a member of the Finance Committee, they show that nearly $4 billion in reserves are already being used across fiscal year 26 and 27. And 27 is left with only $100 million reserve buffer. That's almost nothing for a city this size. The controller's report is even more direct. It says the mayor is relying on reserve drawdowns, optimistic revenue projections, and unspecified savings targets to close the gap. It also warns that this approach leaves the city more vulnerable at a time of real economic uncertainty. In other words, this is exactly when you don't raid the rainy day fund. Because what happens if we actually hit a recession? What happens if Washington cuts aid? What happens if revenues drop for real? Then what? Then we've already spent the emergency money on routine overspending. I asked the Independent Budget Office about this when they testified before the Finance Committee the other day. Homeowners and taxpayers will get clobbered later. This is why people are so concerned about the city's bond rating and borrowing costs. When investors see a city using reserves this way, they don't say, oh, how creative. They say, how desperate. And that costs all of us money. Look, I'm all for using every tool available when there's a real emergency. But a rainy day fund is for a financial storm, not for cleaning up a mess caused by runaway spending and bad budgeting. New Yorkers balance their own budgets every day. City Hall should do the same. Cut waste. Eliminate unnecessary vacancies. I'm all for a creative approach to this. Reduce bureaucracy. Find efficiencies. Be honest about the numbers, but don't smash the glass on the emergency fund because you don't want to do the hard work of governing. That's a horrible idea. They call it a rainy day fund, not a we overspent again fund. It's just my 2 cents.